Sarah was just asking what we were going to draw today. I thought a lot about it because there's a lot of different concepts that I want to kind of isolate out for you guys. And it's never like exactly like what should be taught when. Um, but I decided to go today with learning a little bit about vanishing points, right? Learning how vanishing points work. Because to me, this is a kind of carryover from the lesson we did last week on shape, right? Really, what we're trying to figure out is what shape to make things, how big to make them. And the biggest, most mind-boggling thing that you cannot understand on your own, and actually took, up to the Renaissance for people to really begin to understand how to convey depth on a flat surface is this concept of vanishing point and what happens as things go farther away from you. How do we show them going farther away from you, and how do we show them coming up? So we're going to start with what I consider a fairly simple exercise. Um, so you'll just need a piece of paper and a pencil today. Let me pop this up. Um, And what I want to say, the good news about this is that although it's not intuitive, no one's going to figure this out on their own. Um, it's kind of easy to understand. And once you understand it, it makes things much, much easier. So, a lot of the conversations we had last week when we were drawing that lily really talked about this idea of how big do I make that? How much space do I put in between there? What's bigger, right? What's smaller? How do I show things receding in space when I can only go up, down, left, or right? I like to call this the windshield wiper effect, right? I can really only go this way, this way, this way, and this way, but somehow I have to show things going back. So there's a translation that happens, and it's called the vanishing point. So here, there's a couple of things to understand about it. You can give yourself, I'm going to do this in Sharpie because it'll be easier to see. You guys could do this in pencil. I want to just give yourself kind of squarish shape to not great square this morning. Some days are better than others.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the key things to think is to pay attention to the direction things are going. So I think you guys have all learned. Here, I'm gonna, yeah, yes. Here I'm gonna, I think have you all learned this? This is kind of a variation on what we're doing today. Did you learn this as a kid?
Not really.
You did it? Yeah,
Yeah,
George saying yes,
I did,
Sarah
I
yeah.
saying no.
don't remember. Yeah. I mean,
They
it's like the
didn't
vanishing point, right?
they didn't show you how to draw a cube and how to draw
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
how to draw a road going away
Hmm.
from you. You learned how
Yeah.
to do that, right?
Mhm.
So, what's really happening here? The key is that as things go away from you on the flat surface, they rise up and they get narrower. So, intellectually, you need to understand that this and this are the same size, right? And although this is on flat ground, it doesn't actually rise up. It appears to rise up when you're conveying it as a flat surface. That makes sense? So, the wonderful thing, okay, so this is what's happening here in this scenario. This is what we call our eye level horizon. And the eye level horizon is really where, if you're outside in a scene like this with nothing obstructing the way, it's where the sky meets the land. And it's usually defined by this line, right? So this is the eye level horizon. And at the eye level horizon, that's where everything that's going in this direction away from you is headed towards the same point, a vanishing point. It's always at eye level horizon. So the first thing you have to do when you're laying down your drawing is to define your eye level horizon. Right now, I'm going to define it for you. What's going to happen after a while is you should be able to determine where the eye level is. So sometimes it's easy to see eye level, like here, you can just see it, right? But there is this mountain range here, right? This is what they would call the natural horizon. It rises up above the ground. But the important one is the eye level horizon. In a lot of situations, particularly if you're indoors, or there's buildings, or you're in a big sort of dense forest, or you're like in an area where you can't really see the sky or where the sky meets the ground, you have to determine where your eye level horizon is. And what you can do is use a point like this, right? You can kind of check if you're looking at, this is the tricky thing to show. Let me see if I can show it. If I'm looking at a road like this, right? And I'm trying to figure out where the vanishing point is. I can actually hold my arm straight with my pencil to see where these two lines meet. And that will tell you where your eye level horizon is. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. If you don't get that, that's not as important in this lesson because it's all been set out for you. But that's the direction that we're going. So the first thing we're going to do here with my janky, I'll get out of the way here. Oh, no, I don't want to hide my self view. What the fuck? Show self view. Okay. Um, the first thing we're going to do here is kind of identify where our eye level horizon is. Now, as a general rule, when you're drawing anything, you never put the eye level horizon at exactly the halfway point. It's either above or it's below. The reason is that it doesn't look right. It looks kind of static and made up when you put these in the middle. So what that does, in this particular case, you can see your eye level horizon is kind of below. In fact, it looks like it's about 1/3 of the way up the page, which means that much of the emphasis is going to be on what's happening up here, right? There's more space there. So I'm kind of, before I put it in, I'm going to move it up here and maybe here, but I'm also going to check. See how I've marked it? 2, 3. That's about 1/3. So I'm going to put my eye level horizon and I'm going to label it eye level here. This is eye level. Okay. And I'm going to, this is just a terrible thing. All right. And I'm going to start by, if I want to, you can totally add in the mountain, the natural horizon, and you can label that too. It's not as important. It's not something we really use to measure, but it's a thing to observe. All right. And then because everything in this scene is going the same direction on the road. Can you see that? The road is heading this direction. The fence is heading this direction away from us. The um, telephone poles are headed this direction away from us. They're all going the same direction. Every angle is going to end at the same vanishing point. So I'm putting my vanishing point in the middle, and you can label it. And then this is where it becomes kind of amazing and fun. I look here to add my road, and I look at where my points appear on the edge of my frame, on the edge of my square. I can see that it's here, it's kind of there, and here it's in just a little bit further here. So what do I know? I know I'm going to use it. I could even use a straight edge. I don't have to measure. I just know that all these lines are going to the same vanishing point. They have to meet there. This is because we have something called cone vision, right? Which I'm really fascinated by as a scientific concept. I'm kind of, because the brain is always trying to interpret what it's seeing and trying to help, right? When we look at things, the brain, the eye is taking like several pictures at the same time, and it's, trying to, uh, uh, it's skipping some things and it's emphasizing others, and it's kind of trying to help you understand it. And to me, I feel like this is an evolution. This must be an evolution from our brain, where our brain was like, somehow I have to show you when things are farther away. And the only way to do that is cone vision, right? So cone vision develops. That cone vision means as you look at things, they appear to go farther away and they appear to get smaller and they appear to rise up the page. But that's not actually happening. It's just how it appears, how it looks to us, so that literally we can tell. Imagine if we didn't have it, how would we tell what was farther away and what was close? Right? Anyway, that's where I go. And thing. So once you have that, your road, you can also see that this guy I might go to pencil for this because this feels well, wait, I have this thing here. This guy, um, this guy is kind of a straight down, but there's also a slight angle here where how the on each side of these rectangles. But it kind of basically starts here. And notice that as we go straight down, the lines are smaller and they appear to run together. And as we get a little bigger, there's a little bit more space. And also, things start to get a little bit bigger. Right? So if I were to run a line like this, it would also meet in the middle. But it really, so there are two sides here, right? Like there and there. And notice that as things get closer to you, they get bigger and there's more space in between them. Isn't this awesome? This is like really valuable information, isn't it? Has nobody ever explained this to me? I had to figure it out. And then I read a bunch of books. I had one person teach a really good workshop on perspective and a much more because it gets really complicated when you're inside and there's more than one vanishing point and there's more than one direction. So I took it at that stage, but I remember thinking this is actually a really primary principle we need to start understanding. You're still going to make mistakes that are related to this, but what's going to happen is after a while you're going to see the mistakes that you're making. You're going to understand, oh, it's because I'm not applying the rule correctly, right? The vanishing point rule. So it's helpful to know it in a simple way. How's it looking, guys? Do you got it? You think you got it? You want to hold them up? Just hold them up. Okay, looks good. Yeah, Sarah, your road is a little bit it's inward. It's not wide enough. So it needs to come out. Can you see that? I want you to really evaluate look at where this point is. Here, I'm going to pop this up again so you can really see it. That makes a big difference in the shape of your road. Here, it's very close to the edge, much closer than you have it. And here, it's a little bit farther from the edge. They're not equal, actually, which is kind of interesting. All right. So now we're going to deal with the fence. And here's the interesting news. The fence, each of these points, you're going to identify here, and each of these lines is going to go to the same vanishing point. I'm going to come over here. Once again, be careful. You don't have your fence too far up, too far down. And I'm just using a piece of paper as a straight edge. You can use a ruler, right? And see how I'm bringing. So when I first started painting, it's kind of ridiculous. I didn't know any of this. I could see that these angles were different, but I didn't know how to like codify them, right? I didn't know how to. So I measured each angle and it took forever. In this case, you don't need to measure the angles. All you really need to figure out is where does each line start? And you'll notice this is below the eye level horizon. So that means it's closer to you. It's also indicating that it's below your eye level, right? So it's everything is angling up to get to the vanishing point. Um, Another rule about how vanishing point, a little bit connected to this. Vertical lines are always straight up and down. They do not bend, they do not wave, right? They don't go this way. These lines are absolutely straight up and down. You can see this because you can see that I'm lining up the edge of my paper with the edge of this paper. And look, this is a straight up and down line. This is something that's really hard for some people to get. You kind of want to start bending that way, that way. And that is not what's happening. So the horizontal lines, as they move away from us, are angled and getting smaller. The verticals are straight up and down. The vertical lines are straight up and down. So these, nope, and as they move away from me, they get smaller and closer together. And that so no, none of these spaces are the same. They're all smaller, and none of these sizes are the same. But what is the same is that they're straight up and down. That's amazing. This is how our brain organizes information. And this is the translation that happens, right? Because we can't draw back. We can't draw that way or this way. We can only go this way or that way. What you start to see is that in perspectives like this, involving more than one side of a subject, which is pretty much always, you never see just one side of a subject. Um, the anything that's not in front of you, directly in front of you, is moving away from you and is also applying. That includes the face. Can you see that my face is lit on this side and lit on this side? That's because this is the front of my face and this is the sides. Also, if I turn my head, you can see the side. The side gets bigger, but it doesn't like disappear. Can you see that it's still the same side? It just looks truncated from that angle. If I turn, you can see more of it. It looks bigger. And the reason I'm turning this way, it's looking bigger, is because it's coming towards you. Look at this, right? This is halfway. I'm not moving my pencil. You can still see the two halves of my face. Here, you can still see the two halves of my face. But look, this half is like half the size of this half. See that? Like that, like that. And this half is kind of angling up. There's an angle up that's stronger than the angle going this way. So that is how much um, understanding this, and you may not get this now. It's okay. I'm just showing you different examples in which it comes into play. Um, and the reason it's funny because I was thinking about doing shading first, but I thought, oh, if they don't understand that every subject has sides, and shading shows us where things turn around. So shading shows us the head. So this lesson is in a way more important because it shows you that everything has sides, right? And it shows you that as things go away from you, which everything will on a drawing, that you have only you have to do a kind of translation as you translate that to two dimensions to create the illusion of three. That makes sense? Okay. So let's talk about what happens when an object goes both below the vanishing point. Oops, here, let me get out of the way here, and above, right? When an object goes both below, like here, this is above the eye level horizon, right? And that means that all the angled lines will go down. And this is below the this is below the eye level horizon. That means this one's going to go up to the vanishing point. So this line I actually added in. It wasn't there, but it's really key. The most important thing to do when you're figuring this out is you need to get these this line and this line because these lines will tell you how big to make your telephone poles as they recede back. They stay in this little envelope, right? It's very helpful. So this is very close to down here, and this is super close to the top here and there. And then just like everything else, I'm going to do this with my pencil. Both these lines. So this is the container upon which I'm going to put my telephone poles. Oh, no, it's my pencil cuts. Wasn't quite that. Sometimes your straight edge doesn't want to act like a straight edge. There we go. Okay, so that's this line. And this is this additional line, which I added in, and which eventually you'll want to erase. So this is the formula upon which we put our, right. I guess I'll put in this one because it's an actual wire. But I'm not going to put this one because I'm going to eventually erase this one. But I want you to be able to see it. And once again, if you want to, we can also do this one, right? Which is the second telephone pole line. That can be kind of helpful. That's helpful, actually, to get that in. Once you get that in, once again, these lines are straight up and down. They are straight up, and they're vertical lines. So even though they're going away from you and they're getting smaller and closer together, contained in this space, um, they are they are still straight up and down. They're not bending. They're straight lines that go straight up and down. And my first one is going to look like this. It's close to the edge. I can bring the top here, maybe touch higher because it goes up just a teeny touch higher. And this comes down to here. And then I can do a little straight line, right? This one's bigger. And look, I can also add a little sideline here because this is the biggest telephone pole. So this is the front of the telephone pole, and this is the side. Both of the front is like kind of straight. Oh, and the front is also this horse. So this line is also a straight across. It doesn't angle. These front facing pieces, the front of this wooden stake, this front crossbar, both of those are just straight across, straight vertically down, straight horizontally across. That's because it's facing us, so it's straight, right? But this side is actually a little bit smaller and kind of rises up a little bit as it goes away. And then I can do this, right? And I'm making it a little bit smaller. And then, I mean, if you wanted to, you could get really anal about it and measure like a like you could go from here to here and then say, oh, I can see that the distance between here and here is like the distance between here and here. So I could do that. I could mark that here and know that there's another guy in between. See how each one gets closer, smaller, skinnier, and how I'm containing it within, oops, mistake. I'm containing it within this little container. Nothing goes farther than my outer container. This container with these two lines, these farthest out points, the bottom and the top highest. There is so much to this lesson. This lesson you will continue to return to again and again to understand what's happening as you're looking at anything as it goes back. And it takes a while to intellectually grasp it because it's not what's actually happening, right? That so your left brain is saying that road is the same size here as it is here. So why is it getting smaller? And why is that rose riding up the ground when I know it's flat on the ground, right? So you're having all these fights in your head about what you understand intellectually to be happening here. And that is the left brain trying to like regain, the verbal conceptual, trying to regain control. And it's completely useless. Its logic makes no sense. Its information doesn't help you, right? It does not help you. In fact, it messes you up. So that's the kind of fascinating thing to learn about this is that you have to kind of, your instinct, because we're all very left-brained, even the people who claim they're more right-brained than left-brained, it's a lie. They are because I mean, if they're talking, then they're in left brain. So they might think they're more woo-woo and creative, and that makes them somehow special, but that's not really what it's about. Understanding what's actually happening here, that's right, the difference between right and left brain. And your left brain's going to fight you. until you get enough experience, and then you'll be like, oh, this locks in and makes sense. Um, which is why I profoundly love this lesson. It's a doable lesson. You with your experience level, wherever you guys are, you're gonna take it at one level. You take this a year later, I guarantee you it's gonna hit deeper because you will have had a year of drawing experience to figure this out. All right, everybody got it? Do you want to show it to me? Or do you want to send it? Why don't you take a picture and send it over to the thread? Actually, just take a picture, Sarah, because it's harder to see when you've got your blur on. I'd love to just take a look, but like a closer look. And George, you go ahead and do the same thing. Christina, are you getting your coffee? Is that what's happening? You still
Oh,
working? Oh, yeah. If you want to see where this exercise will go, Christina, can you
yeah,
show
yeah. Well,
what
I'll send a I'll send a picture.
yeah, Christina's going to send a picture. She's working on a
Uh,
very nuanced uh, way to go. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Take a look for it.
I didn't manage to finish the fences.
Okay, all right. And I see, Sarah, you didn't either, right? So you're just getting back into it. Okay. Yeah, just work on it for a while. Looks good to me so far.
I think my
All
fence
right.
look like it's falling backwards. So
Then your fence looks like it's falling backwards.
yeah, like I sent it over, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's George's. That's what I was looking at. Okay. Hold on. Why am I not? Hold on. That out again. Yes, because actually none of your verticals are straight.
Oh,
They're
okay.
not A1.
Okay.
So you need to redraw all of them. I can
Okay.
see everyone. So can you see how easy and natural it is? Can I show this? Do you mind?
Mhm.
Just to
Yeah,
show
go
it?
ahead.
Yes. So what you're doing is a really common thing that beginning drawers do. You start to draw as if you can go back.
Mm,
Start to draw as if you think you can go back, but you cannot.
right.
So if we look at this, yeah, but it's a desire, right? It's like this desire to follow the line, but you can't. Like you can't follow it the way it's actually going. You have to change it. So literally, so number one, to me, this fence looks too small
Hmm.
if you look at it in relation to everything else around you. Oh, and also, did you put your eye level horizon at exactly the halfway point?
Oh, did I? I
Yes, you did.
mixed
Check
it
it.
out. Oh.
Almost exactly. A little bit. It might be that you've sent this to me, not photographing it straight up. You're sending
Yeah.
it to me at an angle. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit more extreme. This is a little high for what actually is happening, right? That's why you have these weird gaps of space here, because
Hmm.
you have too much space down here and not enough space up here. So my suggestion
Extend the
is
top.
base is actually bring your eye level down to about here, and I want you to redraw everything. Is that a bad? Do you hate me for that?
I can do it. I was just wondering, is another way to fix it just to extend the top, the square?
You can't extend it any farther. You've hit the top of the page.
Oh, I just did a little bit. I
Well,
think,
it won't solve this problem,
okay. Okay.
right? Because now you have, and the reason I'm emphasizing this is I'm really trying to get you to look and draw what you see. So the
Okay.
real problem for you happened because you have a rectangle,
Mhm.
and this is really more of a square.
Okay.
Right? This is more of a square. So you have all this, it doesn't look right. right? You have all
Okay.
this space here. What you could do, and here's a difference, you could make these bigger
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that they fit more. So yeah, actually, instead of erasing, but I want you to be aware of what you did because I want
Yeah,
you to
yeah,
pay
yeah.
attention to that because that's huge. And look at how it impacts your drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would make let's have you make the fence come from here down to here. So your three dots.
Mm-hmm.
So erase your fence. And then you'll see, and you can see, these are all at angles. None of them are straight.
Okay.
So one of the ways to stop that from happening is to take a straight edge on your paper.
Mhm.
And so I'm just using this piece of paper right now. It's just a piece of paper. So I'm lining up my straight edge. When I want to draw a straight line, I'm lining up my straight edge, whether it's a ruler or a piece of paper or what have you. Come on. So I'm trying to line it up so you can. Here we are. I'm lining up my straight edge so that my paper lines up with the edge of the bottom edge of my, see that? The bottom edge of my paper. It's not going like this or like this because that's what starts to give you. So I line this up like this. Then I know I'm going straight up and down. Got that? Okay. Um, let's have you do that. I'm going to let you guys work on it for a little while. We'll add the clouds last and talk about what's going on with them. If you want to see how insane Vanishing Point can get to, you can look at Christina's drawings, which she's working on in her drawing class. She took this lesson with me last year and then took a drawing class where all they do is work on Vanishing Points. Um, so this is how far it can go. I
Yeah.
can say she's probably, but this has been good training for you, hasn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, because well, we didn't even have a lesson like this. She was just like, draw this, go.
Yeah, nobody even explains it. This bothers me about art teachers that nobody explains what's going on
Yeah.
so that you don't. But a lot of art teachers aren't really good with words. So, fortunately for you guys, my first career was as a journalist, so I didn't really lock into right brain until my 30s. And so I was aware of what was bouncing with me and what wasn't working for me. And kind of through reading, through practice, through a lot of classes, different teachers gave me little pieces of it so I could put it together um, in this way. But it's true, I haven't really seen many people talk about it. And I think it's a fundamental principle.
Yeah.
And this is the easiest version of it. Um, and even then, look at how everybody's kind of struggling. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
It,
it's
it
a still
it's a mind warp for sure.
like
Yeah.
like a lot of things with drawing, what I found as I learned it is that I grabbed onto every practical tool anyone would give me. Here's how to measure. Here's how to draw a straight line. Here's how to check the angle of something. Here is negative space, massively important. Right. So, Sarah, your negative space was totally out of whack here. It didn't look right because this is too long, which creates too much space here and too much space. It's a kind of having this awareness as you're drawing the whole thing of what's next to it. It's really a kind of spatial, how big do all these pieces like kind of take up, and that is something you have to start judging and it's a lot of people are not comfortable with it. They want to measure, they want calipers, they want to measure. And I'm like, it's really more of a eye you develop as you start to sort of see proportionally how things work. And we often say the other sort of corollary of this is in drawing and painting. Often the thing you think is the problem is not the problem. It's often the thing next to the problem that's the problem. So you're like, why can't I make this right? This line is not, it's like, it's because this other thing is like not correct, right? So Measuring and drawing is really tedious, but it's super necessary. Can you see both? There we are. I should send a picture of this across the thread. I'll do that right now, actually. So you guys have it closer. Hold on just a second. I'm going to move the spot. I'll take a picture as well. I'll send you where my janky little drawings. And here is the actual worksheet. So if you want to look closer at it, you can. But I'll put it back up on screen now. I did promise you I would actually teach you. Oh. It's a nice way to um, spend a couple hours, isn't it? Kind of focusing, maybe slightly frustrating, but there's a good kind of frustration that you want to give yourself. It's a little bit, as I said, like working out, right? You don't expect to enjoy it. Exactly. You should be working hard enough that it's a little bit uncomfortable. But what I'm creating for you is not only an environment where you can get help, but also trying to pick the best exercises to get you to learn something new. And so as you're doing, we're basically exercising your right brain right now, which for most people doesn't get much of a workout unless you draw all the time. And even then, if you taught yourself to draw, uh, it's not super. There's a limit to what you learn by teaching yourself versus learning concepts. So I like this because it feels like it's just hard enough. But at the end of it, you're going to be very proud. You're going to be like, I did that. I still have that feeling with every painting I make. It's amazing. After 25 years, I'm still like, oh my God, I made that. Wow. How did I know how to do, I have a process so I can make paintings. But sometimes I look at them and I'm like, how did I do that? I have no idea how I did that. Um, and that's kind of the wonderful thing about art. Particularly if you let it, if you allow it to unfold itself to you rather than you demanding it kind of fit a certain, perspective. I know artists who are like that, who are very perfectionist, and it's okay. Who have a very strong vision of what they want their paintings to look like, and that's okay. It can be great. But for me, I kind of like a little bit the element of surprise. Like I have a process that keeps me from getting stuck, but I'm never quite sure how the painting is going to look in the end. I never really know. I know when it's done, but I usually don't know until, up right until the moment what exactly I'm expecting. I have a general idea, but I don't really have a specific idea of what it's going to look like or how it'll all come together. And that I find that a little bit can be a little bit unnerving, but it's really great because then you're just constantly like, wow, I did that. How did how did I even do that? How did that happen?
That's interesting because what I'm learning with just these two classes is uh, because when I used to draw like on my own, like freestyle and
Right,
without trying to forget like the rules I learned in school and that I'm noticing that with you it's like I'm learning how to prioritize, because when I used to learn, yeah, like on my to draw, sorry, on my own, it was like I just got lost in, some details from some part of the drawing and maybe forgot about the big picture.
right.
And I think I'm really learning right now and last week how to, like, okay, maybe this is not that important, you can use that time maybe for later for the details.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when we teach ourselves to draw, George, that is such a good observation. When we teach ourselves to draw, so I never had that experience because I never taught myself to draw. I just knew I couldn't. 32, I was like, I can't do this and I need help. So, but when you teach yourself to draw, we do not start by mapping out things, right? How much space things take up. We don't start that way. We start kind of at the center and then we kind of move out. Like for a lot of us, if you draw a face, people would go from one eye and then get all the details of the eye and you know what I mean? All the shadows and then the other eye, right? And then go to the nose and then the eye. Like it's kind of like you go out, but it doesn't logically make sense, right? It logically, you don't really do this until you know where these things sit, right? And when you start from the middle, the most detail, and then go from detailed area to detailed area, sure, you can probably get a certain amount done, but once perspective takes its toll, there's no way to figure it out. So most people just skip it, they fudge it, they draw one thing over and over and over again, sort of one image that they practice over and over and over again, and that's like not understanding but not understanding really like how to construct it. I like to say, imagine if you were building a table with ornate legs. It'd be like starting with a piece of wood and carving an ornate leg. You don't really, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? You have to cut a block of wood for the top of the table, and then you have to cut four blocks of wood that are equal in size so that your table is even, right? You have to make sure your table is even before you start adding any detail. And so that is what I'm kind of introducing, right? How, when to worry about what. And what I think is nice about this process, which you might notice, George, is that it releases some of the pressure to get everything right in the first go. It releases this pressure to focus too much on detail, which is what we do if we're not taught not to. And there is also a corollary to writing. There's a corollary to writing because writing also, you have to synthesize a lot of information. And one of the things I noticed, I stayed in journalism and I had like one foot in journalism, I'm going to say from about 32 to 36. And no, to maybe even to 40. I used to be a journalist trainer. I would do some freelance work as I was becoming an artist. So I stayed another 5 years in journalism. What I noticed was I never struggled to write a lead again, ever. There's something about this training, this essentializing, this prioritizing, as George said, that translates to how you organize information. I used to want to try and prove it. Janet Roberts and I tried to set up several surveys, and then we realized that nobody cared. Everybody was like, it was hard to measure. It was hard to get people to fill out the survey. It was hard to kind of analyze how that happens. People were coming to do this to learn to do it, or, just for the stress relief, right? And the stress relief. So we stopped trying to prove it. But I remember the first lesson I taught at Reuters 10 years ago. Sarah, I don't know if you knew Janet's protege, Salome. She's now at like the Times of London or something, but she was like kind of a young Eritrean hotshot reporter who Janet took under her wing. And she had been working, so we did that Lily lesson. And Salome had been in she had this big giant story on human trafficking in Eritrea, and she could not write it. She was just staring at all this information and feeling completely overwhelmed. And then she came in because this was when it was in the office. This is in the before times, like 2015. She came in to take the class for an hour and a half. And as she said to me, I drew a lily and it was hard, right? She went back to her desk and all of a sudden the lead popped out. And that piece was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. I'm gonna say results not typical. Do this, but I feel it's very clear and kind of having an understanding of where things fit visually has it'll influence how you look at everything, and it's like adding an extra tool to your toolbox. It's like prioritizing how much, and in a visual way, how much is this? It translates. It's really weird. And I'm sure, George, there are translation things that happen as well, right? Because that is like so super left brain, but there is a visual side to it that helps you do it, that because you're trying to understand and synthesize and, kind of say it in the in the correct way. So I know there's like a lot of this translation, but yeah, I find this very relieving. I find the idea of a vanishing point is like, oh my, thank God. I don't have to measure every single angle. I can find these way easier than I can find like this angle. What's really trippy is that this angle is none of these are the same angle, right? Because each of these lines is at a different location away from you, and that means the angle changes. So instead of having to measure every angle, just find out where they all meet. And sometimes it does help, right, Christina? I mean, that's what's making what you're doing possible right now.
Yes, something helpful that my other art teacher said is like think of the vanishing point like a magnet, like all lines
Go
draw
to it.
back to it. Yes, exactly.
Mhm. Unless you're in a place where there are vanishing points going and there are things going in separate directions, and then that
Yeah.
means there's more than one,
Yes.
um, which we will maybe talk about. We'll see. We'll maybe talk about that next week. Um, I want to show you guys a little bit about what's happening with the clouds, and then I'll have you add them in. And then when you think this drawing is finished, we'll take a look. Um, so notice that the clouds as well also have sides, right? They have a side that's they're not just flat floofs, right? That floof along in the air. The cloud has a bottom and the cloud has a side. And the bottom, because you're standing, you can mostly see the side here. The bottom's kind of slightly darker and very narrow in shape. This cloud, which is much closer to you, the viewer standing right here, you can see more of the bottom than you can of the top. See that? That's the side. That's just like this. These are three sides, right? That's just like one side, two side, or it would be like this. Let's see. Can I do it? I'd have to think about how to draw a cube, which isn't exactly the same, because you'd be looking at the bottom of the cube. Oh, even that's like blowing my mind. Anyway, um, these clouds, I'm not going to even mess with that, but these are different sides of the same thing. And as things switch sides, the light, as we learned last week, it either moves towards or away from the light. So that's why it's important to identify what the sides are of everything. And to make sure you get the shapes right. This one is very narrow because it's farther away and we're not right under it. This one, we're more under it. So we can see more of the bottom than we can of the sides. So go ahead, and this one's we're even farther away. So notice each cloud gets smaller and smaller, and the little shadow gets smaller underneath it. I know that's why I say being an artist absolutely changed and also saved my life because it forced me to look at things in a different way, and it forced me not to focus so much on detail. I think this desire to focus on detail is kind of a survival thing. Like when humans were first standing up and right perceiving, and probably animals do this too, you have to look really closely at something to determine, is this the right red berry? will this one kill me or is this one something I can eat, right? So we focus, hyper focus when we're trying to assess how someone is in relation to us, which is actually apparently the empathy gene is the first thing that really established humans from apes, right? Is who had the most capacity to determine how someone else might be feeling and be able to react to that. That's what we call empathy. Um, we look really closely to be able to pick up very minor details on the face. So we exaggerate the size of the places that we look, which is the eyes and the mouth. We make much smaller than they are the ears. So we look really closely. We're used to looking really closely to pick up information. Um, but we aren't used to, and I think that's the kind of survival thing that kicks in when we're starting to try and draw something. We're still focusing so closely on detail, it's hard to pull yourself back. So all of this is just about planning, right? How do you plan something? Like, how do you make it fit? Everything fits in there, and figuring out those things first is at first it's a little tedious, and then after a while, it's so freeing because you can get into if you don't have this, you don't have a drawing. If you don't have this, you don't have nothing else will go right for you. So it becomes the kind of stabilizing thing to focus on, and it's also this concept of bigger shapes, the biggest shapes being put in first. So that's the horizon line, right? The foreground plus the sky. These are different planes. And then within this, we started with the road, which was probably the biggest shape, taking up the most space. But we did this because I thought it would be a little bit easier than jumping into this. Then there's these pieces, right, that need to go. So it's kind of a nice, it's a logical way to analyze something once you get into the habit of it. And this is why nobody knows how to draw after the age of about 8, because very few people teach this. And unless you want to learn it, you don't have to. And that's too bad because I kind of think if everybody knew this, we'd all be smarter. And maybe we wouldn't be in this situation that we're in right now. I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much. Learn to draw, save the world. It is true. If Hitler had just stayed in art school, it'd be all that nonsense. I'll be right back, guys. Sorry, I have this excruciatingly long process for making myself a cup of coffee. It's the only thing I do slow at all in my life. So I'm like, you have to boil the water. I just a pour over, like a single pour over. So you boil water and you got to get bees and you got to get a filter and you got to put the filter on top of the cup. And it's kind of hilarious. Uh, but I love it because it is the only thing kind of ritual I have right now in my life that is slow. Um, uh, and since I'm not really a slow person, I'm kind of a more speedy person. I like things that slow me down. Anyway, but that's why I'm in and out. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's taking forever to make this thing. Here, hold on. I'm on the last phase. However, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. I know for you guys it's later in the day, but it's still pretty early for me. How is it going, by the way? Yeah, good. And Sarah, have you managed to kind of adjust things to kind of make it work, your original drawing, which I like? Oh yeah, these are looking great, you guys. Just keep going. Just keep going. I'll give you a preview of the next one. This is what happens when you have two things going in two different directions. You're going to still use the eye level, but you'll have two vanishing points instead of one. And I find this, we probably won't get to that today. We'll see. We have a little bit more time actually. So yeah, but you can also just stay in this because there's so much rich information here, right? There's so much to learn from this. If you feel like coloring it in with pencils or watercolor, if you have like I don't know, anything to play with color wise, I would totally encourage you to mark it up once you're done, kind of finish it as a drawing. And then maybe we'll work on this next week because it's clear this is a good concept to really there's a lot of information here and it seems like a good division. You know, it's funny, I every time I teach this, I beginning drawing, I teach it different. Um, because I have and maybe it's because classes are different, or maybe it's because I'm figuring out what the things are that are the essential points, right? And how deep, how they have to go in. Sorry for everybody before you. You're probably getting the better lesson. And George, the only other thing I wanted to tell you is that the other relief I think you're giving yourself and your brain is that you can allow your drawing to be awkward for a little while before it's finished, right? I want to show you guys the painting we did in in acrylic painting yesterday. So here is our subject, and this is our underpainting. So if you look at this, in some ways, it looks absurd, but this is stunningly beautiful and is going to create the most beautiful painting you've ever seen. But it's a very awkward stage, right? Would we all agree? This is very awkward. It does not have what's going on here down here. But what will happen after a while is you'll learn to embrace this stage because even though it looks murky and muddy and the details aren't clear, this is the base upon which you can add really bright color. So drawings are the same, right? They have a kind of an awkward stage. And so you have to learn, your brain is fighting you on that. Your left brain wants it to be finished and perfect and blah, blah, blah. But if you know, no, wait, there's a process, brain. There it is. You'll then kind of learn to embrace things at the very um how do I say it? At the very like uh the kind of beautiful stages that they're at. All these different stages um will start to mean something to you. They're going to tell you, "Oh, I'm headed in the right direction." Um it makes me feel much better to know that I know when I'm drawing a face where all my features are than to try to draw the features before I know it, right? It just makes me feel better. So so you'll start to say, oh yeah, but it doesn't look good. It looks kind of, and oh, like our lily last week when we just had the outside shape, it looked like a squash starfish, right? It doesn't look good, but we know that once we add in the details, this is the canvas upon which it will look great. So, Christina, are you hanging on and just continuing to work with Lotto?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. I thought I was gonna give up on this, but now I feel like I'm so close. I need to
Do it. You can do it. That's 3 hours. You'll get it done.
yeah.
Sometimes you have to look at a piece and go, this is so tedious or so blah, but I just know it's going to take me this many hours and then I get it done. If I put in X hours, I will get a certain amount back. Um,
Yeah.
that's another way of kind of talking your way into doing it. It's like, you're kind of always bargaining with yourself. I feel like, like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old who's like, trying to bargain for more bedtime, like staying up longer. The parent is like 5 minutes, and the two-year-old's like, no, hour. Yeah, yeah. Okay, maybe 10 minutes. No, 40 minutes. No, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I often feel like I'm cajoling myself. The brain is going, I really need 2 hours to finish it. No, 10 minutes.
Yeah. I know it's the opposite when you're adult. You're like, I need to
You're
get to,
trying to talk yourself into staying in something longer.
oh, yeah, only an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
No. Although today I'm like, okay, if you don't finish this during Lotto's class, then you do need to move on.
Let it go.
You
Yes,
need to
let it
move
go. But
on.
you're getting good work. You're getting good work done.
Yeah, actually, I just
Good.
have this like section with the shelves, which I think I can get done. It's just I've been avoiding it because it's all this
It's a
like
pain in the ass and a lot of detail. Yeah, I get it.
great angular work, and I'm like, I don't want to do, don't want to
But
do it.
you'll be happy when you do.
Yeah.
I had this feeling when I was working on, let's see if I can show you guys this painting. I'll pop it into the thread. I have that feeling a lot with paintings. I have to kind of negotiate with myself. Um, can I keep going till I make this work? Yes, this one. Let's see, I'll pop it into the thread. I just finished it finally, but I found it kind of tedious because it was kind of all of a similar thing, and I had to show it going back in space. And here, this is like a 30 by 40-inch painting. So, like, I found this very tedious at various points.
Mm,
And I really had to talk myself into continuing. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, but uh, I was like, it's all the same damn flower. God, this is like, how do I make this look closer and this look farther away? And actually, you guys, this is also that painting is an exercise in planes. As you go up, right,
mm,
the flowers move farther away.
mm.
Yeah. And I wonder if I'll even send you over, I'll show you what it started looking like. So you can see where I started. Because that's always, nobody really ever understands that until they see the pictures. Yeah, I have a picture of that on here. Oh, but actually, do you still need to look at this?
No.
Or do you guys have it? I can remove it, right? I'll pull that out. This is what it looked. Oh, shoot, I sent it to the wrong. Oh, yeah, beginning drawing. Ah, this is how it started. This is how all my paintings start. So you can kind of see the beginning and how loose it is, just kind of playing things around and how crazy different the colors are.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, nobody ever believed. I feel like I need to do more like explaining of that because no one can believe every single one of my paintings starts like that. And with a black gessoed canvas and a red and yellow painting, underpainting, which is then very simple, which is then pushed back and made darker by a blue glaze. So I've basically taken all three primary colors and created this muddy, murky mess. And that's where the painting evolves. Um, and that's when it's kind of like, oh, what is it going to be? I don't really know. No idea. Really good job, you guys. I appreciate you being here on a Sunday, working on a project, putting in the effort. It's a nice vibe to be around. You both are also welcome to stay if you want to. There's another class that starts at the top of the hour, so in a half an hour, taught by Lotto Pochkoa. It's kind of an open studio. He's a good friend of mine and one of my former teachers. He's in New York. And it's kind of, Christina, how would you describe it? It's more of like a salon, like you kind of bring your own
Yeah.
project. He doesn't really teach as much basics like I drill down on, but it's an incredibly, if you have something you want to work on, it's an
Mhm.
incredibly
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah, you send in your pictures and he'll give his thoughts or advice, and then we'll, chit chat about like art history or what world events, what's going on in culture. and how it all interrelates. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's like a freestyling salon, bring your own projects. Good.
Yeah, it's very high. It's kind of high level and lovely, like the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
And Lotto is a very dear friend of mine. When I was in my 30s, I lived in Budapest, and he and his wife and I met there. And he's from the Republic of Georgia. She's American. And I had spent a lot of time in the Republic of Georgia, and Tbilisi particularly. So we kind of bonded immediately over that. He was in Abkhazia and actually had to run in 1990 from the Russians, who kind of took over the seaside town he lived in, lived as a refugee in Tbilisi and went to art school, was in the army there, and then, married Elizabeth and kind of ended up, they had kids together, they traveled, I met them sort of halfway through their journey, and now he lives in New York. And he has a real appreciation for access to information and knowledge. B, he seems to have kind of he seems to remember almost eidetic memory. He seems to remember almost everything he reads. So he really has a vast amount of knowledge. And so you'll start to pick up the pieces, but also he's fucking hilarious. It's not like really funny. So he's all of those things. He's a rare person. And one of my favorites. It's sad, actually. I don't ever have time to. I have a class that starts at 10 here in the studio, so I can never really make it to his classes, but he's really a joy. So you are welcome to kind of stay. I think I'm going to stop the recording.